2021 will please come to order. Please place all electronic devices on mute, remove hats, and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And please remain standing for a moment of silence for the over 352,000 Americans who have lost their lives to the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I will now call the roll. Mrs. DeMade?
Here.
Mr. Benicki?
Here.
Mr. Hazen?
Here.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Here.
Mr. Emmons?
Here.
Mr. Belovich?
Here.
Mr. Compton?
Here.
Mrs. Volker?
Here.
They've got me as Mr. on my
You did
list
that
here.
last year.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Here.
All members are present in the chambers except for Mr. Compton and Mr. Mamalenti. They are virtual. I will now open the floor for nominations for President of the Council for the year 2021.
Madam Clerk,
Mr. Emmons?
I'd like to place in nomination Mr. Greg Hicksonball for the office of President.
Second.
Are there any more nominations? I will now entertain a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Second.
I will now do a roll call on closing the nominations. Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
The vote to close nominations is 9-0. I will now do a roll call vote on the nomination of Mr. Hicksonbaugh for president. Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
The nomination passes 9-0.
All right, thank you, folks. I look forward to working with all of you as we embark upon what appears to be yet another challenging year for our community. Before we proceed further with the agenda, I do want to note for the record that this evening we are once again operating under some altered procedures consistent with the terms of Governor Holcomb's executive orders regarding face masks and other issues. We are offering the opportunity for people to participate in this meeting remotely, and members of the public will be asked to place their microphone on mute during the meeting with the exception of any public hearing. At the appropriate point in the public hearing, I will invite the public to unmute their microphone for purposes of submitting any comments they wish to make, one person at a time. All persons wishing to make public comments will be asked to first state their name and address for the record. After completing their public comments, members of the public will once again be asked to place their microphone on mute, and we thank everyone for their cooperation as we work through these procedures. So with that, I will now open the floor for nominations for the office of Vice President of the Council for the year 2021.
Mr. President,
Mr. Benicki.
thank you. At this time, I would like to nominate Mr. Mamalenti for Vice President for 2021.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Emmons. Motion has been made to nominate Mr. Mamalenti for the position of Vice President of the Common Council for 2021. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, then the chair will entertain a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded. Close nominations. Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
The vote to close nominations is 9-0.
Thank you. Then if there are no further questions or comments from the council, the chair would now entertain a motion, or call for the question with regard to the appointment of Mr. Mammaletti as Vice President of the Council for 2021.
Question.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
The nomination passes 9-0.
Thank you, and congratulations, Mr. Mammaletti. With that, we will move into approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of December 21st, 2020. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, then the minutes will stand approved as received from the clerk's office. Petitions, communications, remonstrance, and memorials.
Yes, Mr. President, we have appeal number 2020-58 to the Common Council, City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is a use variance to allow tattoo, piercing, and art gallery at 403 and 411 South Main Street. This appeal is signed by Maurice Bocart. We have petition number 2020-24. This is to the honorable members of the Common Council, City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is rezoned 2 parcels, total of 1.81 acres, from C1 General Commercial to C7 Automobile-Oriented Restaurant Commercial at 5055 Grape Road. This petition is signed by Mitch Galtz. Petition number 2020-25 to the honorable members of the Common Council, City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is to rezone. This is a PUD amendment to allow fuel pumps and convenience store with parking reduction at 520 Bittersweet. It's the southeast corner of Bittersweet and Vistula. And this is signed by someone that can't read the right. K.A. Hoagland is what I believe it to be.
We'll go with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
This evening, we have no report of any special committee, no ordinances on first reading, no resolutions, nor any ordinances on second reading, so we will move into privilege of the floor. And at this time, we will invite members of the public to speak with respect to non-agenda items only under privilege of the floor. Thank you. This evening, we also have no unfinished business, so we will move into new business. And at this point, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the suggested appointments to our council committees, the appointment of Mr. Triple as our council attorney, and the appointments to various boards and commissions that we need to make for 2021, all as are reflected in the information that was distributed to the council by the clerk's office.
So moved.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve our council committee appointments, our council attorney appointment, the appointments to various boards and commissions as reflected on the list and information distributed to the council by the clerk. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, then I will call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes,
Everything passes 9-0.
we're on a roll. Next, we have the acceptance of conflict of interest forms, and Madam Clerk, if you would, I'd ask you to read into the record the names of those council members who have completed and distributed to the rest of the council a conflict of interest form.
Dale Woody Emmons, 1st District Council. Anthony Tony Hazen, 3rd District Council. Greg A. Hicksonbaugh, Council at Large. Matt Mamalenti, Council at Large.
Thank you. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to accept the conflict of interest forms consistent with the requirements of Indiana law.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the conflict of interest forms for those council members whose names were read into the record by the clerk. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yep.
Mr. Hicksonball?
Yes.
Conflicts 9-0 are accepted, and I will send those on to the State Board of Accounts and the Clerk of the Circuit Court of St. Joseph County.
Thank you. Is there any other new business to come before the council? Then hearing none, let me once again wish the council, our friends from the administration, and Mr.